Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It is Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan. We've got an end of the week here inside the Birds, and we've got a lot to discuss, Adam. It's that time of the year, my friend. It's playoff clinching scenario time. So we'll discuss that because there's much at stake with this weekend's games. Week 15 in the NFL, if you're counting. We've got injury news for both teams. The Eagles and the Steelers, and we've got a little bit of a game preview and some game symmetry. You know, these are two familiar franchises with both front office and players that know each other, and that always makes for a good intrastate rivalry. So we'll get through all of that in the pod. I want to start off by asking you, as we move away from what A.J. Brown said, what Brandon Graham said, the passing offense, I think we've covered that pretty well all week long on Inside the Birds. But I wanted to get your takeaway on Jalen Hurts' response, which I found really interesting, by the way. You know, he had a long press conference. He talked about a lot of different things, but it's this quote in particular I wanted us to talk about, where he says, quote, "It's about the team. I don't care how it looks. It's kind of my game. It's going to look how Jalen Hurts wants it to look, you know, but he's going to win." And man, I probably thought about that quote for did a lot of mental gymnastics, probably more than he meant for people to intend to do. But it's really an interesting quote because in it, Adam, there's sort of an admission that the game doesn't look pretty all the time. And then there's an admission that it 9 times out of 10 or whatever the stats are, it results in a win. And there's also seemingly an admission that when he says it's going to look how Jalen Hurts wants it to look, that it may not change very much, nor does he expect it to change that much. Now, I'm not saying I'm not implying that he's saying he's not going to work on things. He's a very hard worker. But I get the feeling that he was a little bit defiant there in that it almost came across that part of it as saying, I'll play this way and I guarantee you we're going to win 8 out of 10 times. Over the course of 3 or 4 years, it may look good, Adam, but to continue to play like that, the last 2 weeks, especially in the passing game, over a longer period of time, I think he left himself in a weird position now. But hey, he's confident. It's hard to do that. It's hard to win a lot of games without a top 10 passing offense, top 12 passing offense.
Yeah, it was an interesting quote because, as you say, at one point it seems like he's admitting, okay, it is what it is. But the other thing is he keeps winning. I mean, they do win. Now, if you just go back to 2022, particularly the Super Bowl, I know things have changed. The way defenses play hurts change or have changed, but we know what he's capable of doing, right? That's the highest of the highs. Like, you can't play any better than he did in the Super Bowl, quite frankly. So it's the carrot is there for him to improve. He absolutely can improve. Willie is another thing, but we know he's capable of doing it. And we talked 2 weeks ago against Baltimore, a couple of outstanding isolated throws. Last week was not very good. We outlined with Greg Cosell on the tape show on Thursday. I suggest you watch it. We really broke that thing down well about where the ball should have gone. You know what? A lot of quarterbacks do that, but you don't want to make your money that way. You really want to throw it where it's supposed to go, because that gives you run after the catch. Another thing we don't talk about enough, that you leave the rack yards on the ground when you don't throw it where the ball's supposed to go. But bottom line is, he said what he said. I'm not going to overanalyze it. I thought it was an interesting quote, no doubt. But it's a big game this week, and I'm fascinated to see how this thing plays out, because things have really changed from the two. We'll get into this later, but when the Eagles blew them out at home, when A.J. Brown had 3 touchdowns, I mean, you couldn't have the Eagles actually changed a lot, a little bit more than I expected. But the Steelers' offensive defensive roster has completely changed.
100%. It's going to be a really good game, and I'll leave it on this, because people have asked me this week in some interviews, you know, given how great the running game is and how great the offensive line and the weapons, what if you were to put, say, like Geno Smith or Sam Darnold with the year he's having in this offense? Would it be a way better passing offense? And what would that do for the Eagles? And I've tried to be fair to Jalen Hurts, and I say, well, the team's 11-2. So I don't know if you put a different quarterback who maybe is better thrower of the ball, that you're going to be that much better. You can't be that much better. They're 11-2. And remember that they do build a lot of what they do offensively off Jalen Hurts' unique skill set. And you have to think some of the running game Saquon Barkley, Kenny Gainwell benefit from the fact that defenses still have to account for what Jalen Hurts can do, that some of those names
Sure.
that people ask me about can't. So it's not a fair comparison, for at least not one that I'm going to make, and I'm not going to diminish or pump up anything. I'm going to keep it neutral and just say what you just said. There are areas this team has to improve, and I do think that even in somewhat defiance, Jalen Hurts knows that the passing game can be and needs to be better, especially if they want to win a Super Bowl. Let's
Agreed.
go ahead. Did you have anything else?
No, it's great. I mean, there's really nothing else to add. It's just we've done enough of the analyzing, the psychoanalyzing of
Yeah.
quotes and everything else. It's just what a week. At first it was Sirianni, what, 2 months ago? Oh my God, that week was ridiculous. And for those of you who don't live in Philly, I know a lot of Eagles fans live across the country and overseas. I know there's some people overseas watching. I mean, that week was crazy.
Yeah.
And Nick brought it on. Nick, quite frankly, brought it on. We don't need to bring that up again, but with Jalen, it wasn't his fault. He didn't ask BG to talk about him and AJ's relationship.
No, I think it was going to be a
true.
story anyway because of AJ Brown. So I mean, it's not like
Sure.
Jalen's completely absolved. He didn't have a very good game, and that's
I get it, but BG owned it on WIP. It's just kind of funny. And we'll move on in 30 seconds because in television, and I'm not calling out any network at all or any radio station across the country because and also on social media, a lot of former players got involved, not just Eagles, but there's just I get it. There's a lot of hot takes out there. I get it in television, in talk, and debate shows. It's very important. I understand that, but I wish they would have gotten what BG said on WIP on Tuesday, because they never would have brought up the Hurts and AJ Brown relationship. It's nonsense.
Yes.
I just don't know why
right.
people can't update and correct, but they just don't want to do that. It's disappointing.
No, that thing got beat to death a little bit too for about 48 extra hours than it needed to be. All right, Adam, we've been talking about it before we go on. Get all your events in, whether it's holiday shows, whether it's sports over the holidays, or whether it's a Christmas or a concert. It could just be a concert, not even a holiday concert. Get tickets for all these great events using the Game Time app. And of course, take advantage of their feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. That's my favorite part of Game Time. It is so user-friendly. Literally just 2 or 3 taps of the app, and you can have the tickets that you want in the row that you want, in the seat that you want. And you could have seen the seat before you even bought the ticket using their little viewfinder there on the app. It's a great perk from the app, along with the fact that you're covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. That includes the lowest price guarantee, the event cancellation protection, and the job loss protection. And of course, the lowest price guarantee means Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you get a better price. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code BIRDS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code BIRDS, BIRDS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. As we go into the NFC East scenario here, all right. It's fairly interesting going into week 15 that only the Eagles and Lions have clinched a playoff spot in the NFC. And honestly, that speaks to sort of the really good competition that you've got in both the NFC North and the NFC West, where every team is still in it. And even in the South, you got 2 teams sort of fighting it out just for that top spot there. So the Eagles and Lions are the only 2 teams to clinch a playoff spot in the NFC. The Eagles can win the division on Sunday if they beat the Steelers and the Commanders lose to the Saints, or what, Adam? There's other things that can happen.
Yeah, I hate the tie scenario.
That's why I threw it to you.
Yeah, it's so annoying, but we have to read it. I get the scenario sent to me, so I always laugh. It's actually very funny. Some weeks, like, a team will need 4 teams to tie and they clinch something. It's just bizarre. But anyway, if the Eagles tie Sunday against the Steelers, which won't happen, and the Commanders lose to the Saints, or the Commandos, sorry, I need to get it right. If the Commanders lose to the Saints, then the Eagles clinch. And by the way, if they clinch Sunday, they'll be no worse than the third seed in the NFC. You know what's just ridiculous? Is that if the Vikings went out, right? But and the Lions went out, the Vikings could be no higher than the fifth seed.
Yes.
To be 15-2. Isn't that ridiculous?
It's ridiculous, and even 15-2 as the fifth seed would be ridiculous. But you know who would think it would be more ridiculous than even the Vikings?
I don't know.
The team that has to play them at home.
Oh yeah.
Whoever the
The wild
fourth
card
seed is, right?
Yeah. But honestly, Minnesota, you mentioned Sam Darnold. Look, coaching matters. This is one of the all-time coaching jobs I've seen him. This is my 27th year of covering the NFL. I don't have to sit down and think about all the great quarterback coaching jobs. You know, I know that Kevin O'Connell, the head coaches, he calls the plays. But this is, if you knew Sam Darnold's career, he basically been terrible before this year. Just awful. Awful. And now there are a lot of reasons why we're not doing a Sam Darnold show here. You know, if we were doing if we had a daily show for 2 hours a day, we sure as hell would get into it. Hell, we get someone who worked with Sam Darnold before. But coaching is so important, man. And I mean, not only is Sam Darnold the most improved quarterback, he might be the most improved offensive player in the National Football League. I just cannot believe how good he's been this season.
I think I predict, it's weird, in my in our predictions that we did, NFL predictions, I predicted Joe Burrow would win the comeback player of the year. He was hurt for most of last year. I don't think he started more than, I forget how many games he started. And he very well could, but I somehow think that Sam Darnold's going to wind up winning it, because even though Burrow's had an amazing statistical year, I think what Darnold has done he's come back from further. Joe at least was a Super Bowl quarterback before. He didn't win one, but he's been to one. Sam, to your point, was basically written off by everybody, and with good reason. And then here he is winning double-digit games and maybe winning 15 games, which would be amazing to even think.
I'm blown away by it. Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator of the year. He's been for Vic, probably number 2, Vic Fangio. But it's fascinating, man. It's been quite the week. Belichick going to North Carolina. You can't be serious. It happened.
Holy cow!
I'm literally still in. I can't cover it. I can't cover up the people. I was texting with a lot of NFL people this week on this, and I wish I could put up the text messages that I got. They're just funny. The guys cursing, get the GATFO, and they're like, what do you know about it? And then they go, here's what I heard, and this, here's why he went to North Carolina. Blah blah blah. It's fascinating, man. You never say never in this business. We've been using that phrase for 7 years now. Never been more apropos with Bill Belichick.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait till the first press conference after they lose a game at North Carolina and they're playing sort of, there's always like 2 or 3 cupcakes on the schedule. And he says something like, we're on to Coppin State next week.
Yeah, Coppin State. Hey, Coppin State their hoops team ran through the NCAA tournament one time, man.
They did one year. Yeah. We're on to Coastal Carolina.
It's funny. That's pretty good, man.
Thanks.
No, Frank Caliendo, our guy. We've never had him on.
Well, we had him on Radio Row. Remember a couple of years ago at the Super Bowl, and he was fantastic.
Oh my God!
So that was great.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's basically the playoff scenarios as they are right now. And I think the bigger story is that there's a lot of seeding. I mean, everything's wide open right now. A lot of seeding from a seeding standpoint. A lot of jockeying to go on. We still don't know who's going to win the NFC West. Still don't know who's going to win the NFC South. We know the Eagles are going to win the NFC East. Most likely, I mean, they'd have to really blow it to lose that. And we still don't know, really, amazingly, who's going to win the NFC North, even though the Lions have 12 wins, which is hard to actually imagine. Let's get into the injury updates powered by our friends at Stretch Zone. You can go to stretchzone.com to sign up. What great news the Eagles had, Adam, on Thursday to see all 53 players at practice. All 53 players were active at practice.
Yeah, which you just don't see. So that again doesn't count Dallas Goedert. He's not on the roster. He's on injury reserve.
Right.
So that's good. So one thing I do want to mention, it's really important. I totally forgot about this when we did the show earlier this week. Devontae Smith is off the injury report. That means he came through the game with a lingering hamstring strain, and he doesn't mean it isn't a little sore, but he's not on the injury report. The blocking receiver, Johnny Wilson, we love calling him that, boy, I think you pointed this out on the All 22 the other day. The way that they use him, because the Eagles played a ton of 11 personnel, but he's really a tight end. No,
Hmm.
but they use him as a blocker. It's just kind of funny. Mekhi Becton came through the game last week. He came in with a knee issue. He's off of it. On it is Jalen Hurts. If you noticed, he was flexing his left hand during the game. Well, wound up being a left finger injury. We don't know which digit, but we do know it's his left hand. He's fine. Covey, he's got to get cleared for contact. He's working, but see what today's practice on Friday. We'll see if he can have a full practice, which would be better indication that he'll be cleared.
Hmm.
Jalen Carter was added with a shoulder injury. He'll play. Nakobe Dean is a new injury, as Jalen Carter. This is the second time this season, by the way. Jalen Carter's been listed with a shoulder. And then Nakobe Dean, a new one, his third different injury this season with an elbow. Blankenship worked again on Thursday. Good sign. City Brown was out there. I want to see what happens today before we give him a thumbs up. Man, he is so important. Not that their special teams coverage, by the way, is really good. It's another thing. And he's a great gunner, man. He had that play 2 weeks ago, which is phenomenal. But
Yep.
as you said, they're getting healthier. Knock on wood here. And obviously, unfortunately, Bryce Huff is coming back from the wrist surgery, so we'll see if he can come back before the end of the season. Goddard can't return until week 18 at the earliest. It's all about getting him ready for the playoffs. Forget about week 18 doesn't matter unless the game matters, really. And he's cleared. It's just about getting him ready. They really need him in the run and pass game.
Yeah, good point. We have not talked about this enough. Kicking is obviously separate responsibilities from the kickoff and punt coverage units. And I say that because Tyler Brown works mostly with the kicker and punter, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Specialist coach, yes. He's
Specialist coach, right.
Yeah.
It is Michael Clay and Joe Panunzio, the assistant special teams coach, Joe Panunzio, kind of the forgotten man in the building, who's one of the most important people in the building because of his Alabama connections. They handle a lot of the kickoff and punt coverage duties, and the Eagles have lost Ben Van Sumeren. They haven't had Sidney
Yeah.
Brown most of the year. They did not retain Josh Jobe, who was one of their key special teamers last year, right? But they've been able to get really good production from the gunner role, from other roles, from guys like you mentioned it, Keely Ringo doing an excellent job, right? Oren Burks, I believe, has been out there on special teams. A couple other guys who are, quote, fringe players, bottom roster players, but by and large have done a good job on the coverage and return units.
They have. No, they're. And Braid Man is really good. I mean, he's really good.
Yeah, Braden's been great.
Boy, I don't know what the Steelers were thinking when they did. They made a decision they want to move on from. But the Eagles, they did a good job of scouting him. Former 6th-round pick of the Jets some years ago. I think it was a 6th-rounder. Anyway, so they just got to get Jake Elliott straightened out. Elliott listened to his press conference this week. Well, I say press conference. He was in the locker room. I don't blame him. He doesn't look at numbers at all. It's all about, he watches the tape. It's all about technique. And Tyler Brown's got to get him rated. Like Tyler did a phenomenal job when he came in. If you remember, his Jake Elliott's last year in 2020 was not good at all. With Dave Phipp. Dave Phipp's a really good coach, but it just wasn't working. And they cleaned everything up. And Jake Elliott was arguably the NFL's best kicker from 21 through 23, particularly after over 50 yards. That's really where he's made his mark.
Mm-hmm.
And to be 0-5 this season, and a couple of them weren't even close. It's I don't understand it, but we're not aficionados. I wish we had folks. We could get somebody, a former special teams coach. Well, we'll have to dig into our phone and our archives. Do we know anyone who's coached special teams? Bobby April? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry,
Mr. Grapes of Wrath himself,
yeah,
Bobby April.
okay. Bobby, nice guy, by the way.
A great guy, great human being. Let's go over to the other side and talk about Steelers injuries. As you said, I believe on the, I can't even remember my days anymore. Wednesday podcast, You were hearing that George Pickens was not going to play, and it doesn't look good for him again for the second straight week.
Yep.
The hamstring that's been keeping him sidelined. And on defense, I know Larry Ogunjobi. I pronounced that right. Ogunjobi?
Nailed it. Yeah. In fact, he did not play in the game 2 years ago in Philly.
Yep.
He's okay. He's not the player he once was with the Browns or the Bengals, but Ogunjobi has a groin injury. He hasn't worked this week. But Pickens is not going to play. Here's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So his hamstring tightened up. They didn't think anything of it after Thursday's practice, but they're like, he did some stuff. He did very, very little on Friday, very little. But
Mhm.
they thought going into Sunday, they thought he was going to be able to play, but it didn't get better like they thought it would. So they had an MRI on Monday, and it showed he's got a little bit of a strain there.
Yeah.
These receivers and hamstring strains don't they? I'm assuming it's a grade one. I didn't ask, but from what I heard, they would be conservative with it. And this changes the matchup, folks. I know Mike Williams. I know they're very happy with Mike Williams. He had two great catches last week. One was Callan. If you could see the highlight. It's ridiculous with one hand. Great
Yeah.
catch.
Yeah.
The other one got called back for around 30 yards. Very
Mhm.
light push off. I know they weren't happy with it. But bottom line is it changed it because Pickens is a top 10 NFL receiver. He is unbelievably talented.
Yeah, some of the best hands you'll ever see in the business, some of the best body contortion
High
and
point, man.
concentration, as you'll see. High
Yep.
point, yeah, he's got it all. So obviously he won't be played. They'll have to make do without him. They're going wide receiver by committee. And Adam, their safety, Deshaun Elliott, who's played really well, has missed practice Wednesday and Thursday with a hamstring injury. That would be a tough loss for them if he can't make it, unless you're hearing that that is not as major.
Well, I'm not. We got to see what happens today, but I just they're to say that they're happy with Deshaun Elliott would be an understatement. I
Yeah.
would say that if you look at his career, nobody saw this. Like I mean, you got to give Terrell Austin credit, who's coached. He's their defense coordinator, but he's worked with DBs a lot of it in his career, and they're gaga over Deshaun Elliott. He's had a great season. He won't make the Pro Bowl because unless you cover the Steelers, unless you're a beat writer, nobody knows about him around the National Football League. He's been hurt a lot, whatever. He's kind of a young journeyman, but this would be a problem now. Demonte KZ would fill in for him if he can't play, so they have depth. But
Hmm.
this would be a problem if he can't play. That's a downgrade. He's really better as a third safety. This would be a problem if he can't play.
There you go. All right, so those are the major injuries with the Steelers. Nothing else that really jumped out. I know they had some guys resting throughout the week, some of their
Yeah.
veterans. And that is the injuries for the Eagles and the Steelers, of course, presented by our friends at Stretch Zone. Can't wait to get back there Monday. That's my day. My day's Monday.
On Monday, okay.
Gonna get my
Okay.
legs stretched. I might do a little more upper body next time. We'll see how I'm feeling, but it's been making my runs that much better as far as, when I go out, I feel nice and and loose and makes my recovery better when I do them after a run.
See, you and I see it differently. No, but it does feel good. I've done it after tennis. I've
Hmm.
got my stretch after tennis. It feels great. But the reason why I do it right before, I like to schedule it an hour before my stretch, before I play, is because I want to be loose as heck right before I play. Because when you get stretched, it can last 48 hours. And if you do what I do, I call them the nines. I go as far as you possibly can. I don't care. I mean, I just want to feel unbelievably loose. I call them
Hmm.
nines. They usually 3-5-7 method. I go, man, I want to. They joke. I
It's like
go, hey, I
giving
want a nine.
110%, right? When you can
Yeah,
technically only
exactly.
give
Right,
100.
exactly. And it's funny because they know when they see me on the schedule, they know what's coming. They know I want it super stretched. So anyway,
Uh-huh.
so what I do is, folks, we mentioned the free 30-minute stretch. Your first one, I highly recommend getting your calves done. It's a basic stretch, getting your hamstrings done. Now, if you sign up for a program, this is my third year anniversary. Once they explained to me getting the quads done, how beneficial it could be for racket sports, I'm like, I'll try anything once. They did warn me. It's the most difficult one. I mean, I'm a baby, so I was like, I did the pregnancy yell, ah, but I cannot tell you how loose I was. It's called a good burn. Your thighs are your quads,
Hmm.
and the back of your legs, your hamstrings. So, and Roman Wilson, by the way, the receiver for the rookie receiver for Michigan, he has a bad hamstring strain, so he's on IR. He could probably use one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's what I do, and I usually do it Mondays and Thursdays. And by the way, you could just go like we do. Geoff goes in New Jersey, Cherry Hill, right? You go to the Cherry Hill one
I go to the
on
Cherry Hill one. Yep. On Evesham Road.
Evesham Road. We got to get Cosell in because Greg told us earlier this week he works out 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Greg
Yeah. He's
Cosell
putting that
does.
work in.
Yeah, good for him. Remember, he played college sports, baseball and basketball at Amherst. He goes to the Mount Laurel one across the street from. Actually, it's in where the Wegmans is. Wegmans is in the Centerton Square. Franklin Lakes on Franklin Ave, Northfield, Tilton Road, and Princeton and Nassau Park Pavilion. We know someone heard our show. We appreciate it, and then we know they signed up for a program there. Like me, if you live near Chester County or near King of Prussia, Although secret, they might be opening one in King of Prussia. That's the rumor. We'll see. Uh, Haverford, near Suburban Square. I've been there. See my man Jared. He spells it Gerard. Don't say Gerard. It's Jared. Devon near Whole Foods. Exton and Whiteland Town Center. See my guy Austin. South Phil or Hassan. South Philly near Graduate Hospital in Washington Ave. Montgomery County, where I grew up. Elkins Park and New Yorktown Plaza. And Upper Dublin Drescher. And then Feasterville and Southampton Village. So basically, folks, if you know where 611 is, they got two or three in that area. So as Geoff said earlier, and we'll move on, stretchzone.com to sign up for your free 30-minute stretch. And by the way, like I'm going to do this weekend, I'm going to buy a bunch of gift certificates. Give the gift of stretching for the holidays.
Great idea. And maybe when they expand to Pittsburgh, we can get Roman Wilson in there for that.
I wonder if they are. I'm sure they are.
I know we know they're expanding to other states, including Connecticut, so that's good. All right, so I did neglect to mention, thanks for bringing up Roman Wilson, that the Steelers do have a couple of guys, important guys, who won't play because they're on injured reserve. That includes center guard Nate Herbig, not Nick, Nate, former Eagle Nate, the offensive lineman, the offensive tackle that they drafted in the first round, Troy Fautanu, and their guard, James Daniels. He's out with the Achilles, and their punter, Cam Johnston, on IR with an ACL injury.
Former Eagle, yeah.
Former Eagle, that's right.
Apparently he was killing it before he got hurt. So they brought back is it Presley Harvin? Let me just double check. Let me see.
While you check that, I've been thinking this week that with Jake Elliott's struggles and with Justin Tucker's struggles and with Harrison Butker on IR.
Waitman. Corliss Waitman. Go ahead. That's right.
Oh, that's right. Waitman, right. It's kind of opened up the door for the Boz to become best kicker in the league right now. I think it's hard to argue against it. Chris Boswell has had probably an all-pro caliber season. So good for him. And he's a good cold weather and bad weather kicker. So I think the weather's supposed to be good. You're usually on that. Yeah. So what's the weather report Sunday?
All right, mid-40s, very cloudy. Rain shouldn't happen till overnight. It's going to rain all again. I know the forecast could change.
Yeah,
but it's going to be mid-40s. Like wind is going to be under 10 miles an hour, which is good because it was 15 to 17 miles an hour during the game last week.
Yeah,
and it showed. So yeah, and when you look at Pittsburgh's situation, they weren't totally sure what the offensive line would look like because Nate Herbig was going to be their top backup center guard. He had a significant knee injury. He's out for the season. Fautanu won't be back if he comes back at all until the playoffs. Now, and he was going to be their left tackle. And then James Daniels was one of their starting guards. He tore his Achilles. And they've I think a lot of people around the league are surprised. Like they've really improved. And you'll see this on Sunday. We've talked about this now for 2 years. I think Sam Malo is probably the most consistent lineman. He's their left guard, former Eagle, of course. Dan Moore, who all Steelers fans wanted off the roster. He's number 65. He actually started against the Eagles 2 years ago. He's hanging in there. He's on a free agent year. Zach Frazier, when healthy, has been phenomenal. Apparently, he won't get very many votes for offensive rookie of the year because he's a lineman. Nobody will know.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid Mason McCormick has come out of nowhere. He wasn't even supposed to play this season. They weren't even sure if they were going to dress him, and now he's having to be their starting right guard. He's been a good story.
Yep.
The one guy who's been wildly inconsistent is Broderick Jones, the first rounder last year out of Georgia. I know he's improving from what I understand, but he's not the player that probably they thought he would be at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So that, this offensive line is overachieved. I cannot wait for this matchup on Sunday because the Eagles' defensive line has been surprisingly so good. And their edge rush group, I know it's not a high number of sacks, but since week 6, they're high in the rankings. And particularly after their bye, it's really after their bye. But bottom line is, to me, I think if you just look at individual matchups, Dan Moore could be beat. I know he's surprised some people. He could be beat. Broderick Jones could be beat. Mason McCormick could be beat. I know he's been a surprise. We don't talk enough about these matchups. We'll talk more about it with Greg when we do the show on Sunday morning. But these are some matchups I look forward to seeing.
I'm thinking that Broderick Jones is going to be fairly familiar with the person who's going to be lining up across from him for the most part in that game, because as the right tackle, he's probably going to be seeing a lot of Nolan Smith, his former teammate at Georgia. And then I'm sure he'll shake hands a couple of times in the middle of action with Jalen Carter. because guys move around a
Yeah.
little bit, and N'Kobe Dean might blitz an A gap or a B gap and
Why not?
go right past his old college. But there's a lot of Georgia on that field
Yeah.
there.
Wow.
Too
Yeah.
bad, and George Pickens isn't even playing. That's the crazy
It's
thing.
true.
That's
It
another
is.
guy.
Yep, that's right. He's out now with a hamstring. But it is crazy how the Eagles ignored that school, Georgia, for years.
And
And then
Alabama.
they went hog wild for it. And they've got most of them right. Well, look, Nolan Smith is improving. He's not quite the pass rusher they thought they were going to get. He's really good against the run. And as Greg said, that he shows up, he's now shown up every game, a couple really nice rushers. Look, as a first round pick, he's got to be better as a pass rusher. But the good thing is he's improving. And that's
Yeah.
really important.
Yep.
It's Jordan Davis we just talked about on the Inside the Tape show with Greg earlier this week. Jordan Davis doesn't really play. He's played one snap a nickel this season.
Yep.
It is what it is. He played too high this past week. 2 weeks ago, as you know, you and Greg watched the tape. He was much better. It's just too bad that he can't play consistent. Just be consistent against the run. That's what you'll take this season. But
Yeah, there
they
were
need
about
it.
3 or 4 times, I think I mentioned in the last pod, that the left guard for the Panthers, whose name is it Damian Lewis? Is that correct?
Yes, they got from Seattle. Yep, yep.
Drove back Jordan Davis by
Mm,
himself, not a double
that should
team,
not happen.
by himself. Yeah, it was not particularly pretty for Jordan Davis, and it's
Not
too
good.
bad because again, he plays limited snaps, but I thought he played some really impactful snaps against the Ravens, and you were hoping that would be a springboard. But the one thing, and I think maybe this is where the trend you see is that you can say the Panthers' offensive line isn't great, but the interior line, they are big. They will maul you. The Hunt, the right guard, and Lewis, the left guard, are big mauling kind of guys. And if they'll get into your chest, they'll drive you back. And that's what they did. And we know the Steelers got some big maulers on that offensive line too. And to your point about the surprise of the year they had, imagine being the Steelers, winning all these games and knowing you're going to be getting Fautanu back for the playoffs, and he'll slide in nicely. Maybe they'll play him a right tackle if Broderick Jones continues to struggle.
Mm.
But that's going to be a nice little feather in the cap when he's ready to return.
They hope their hope is that he'll be able to return.
Right,
sometime.
assuming he's right.
Right. But it is unbelievable that the last time they played him was at the Link, and the Eagles killed them.
Yep.
It was October 30th, 2 years ago. And I'm looking at it's crazy how some of these guys aren't even in the league.
Some of them didn't deserve to be.
Well, the Chase Claypool miss, it is really crazy.
Yeah.
Chase Claypool, who I know some people thought should have been a tight end. I'll never forget when Mike Tomlin, they were in an overtime game against Minnesota, and he benched him for behavior. Chase Claypool,
Mm-hmm.
number 11, and that's a bad sign. And then Chicago stupidly gave up a second-round pick for him. That was a bad trade by Ryan Poles. Should have known better. How the hell do you not know that he's immature? And that wound up not working for them. Then he went to Miami, and he's out of the league. He might be in the CFL. I know he's definitely not in the NFL, and that's it for him.
Yep.
But if you look at it, right, and we'll get the Eagles in a couple minutes. But Deontay Johnson traded, Pickett's not playing. Dan Moore's still playing left tackle. Kevin Dotson got traded to the Rams. They didn't want him, and by the way, he played lights out, got a contract extension. Mason Cole's out of the league, who was their center.
Yep.
Jalen Stewart's Achilles, he's not playing.
Right.
Chuks Okorafor is with another team. Zach
Yep.
Gentry is like one of the tallest tight ends in NFL history. He's somewhere else. Kenny Pickett's with the Eagles. Najee Harris is playing. So they have two players on offense for this game.
Yep.
Isaiah Loudermilk probably will start if Ogunjobi. It's ironic he started for him 2 years ago. Ogunjobi didn't play.
Oh, how about that? Is this the same? There was a Loudermilk once that played for the Colts. Is that this different spelling or different?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know.
No worries. That
Cam
was like during the
Hayward.
Peyton Manning era, so I was just.
Oh, I doubt it. No, it can't be. Yeah.
Okay.
Cam Hayward is playing. But by the way, they think best he's played in years. He's playing great. He played that game. Chris Wormley's gone. Highsmith is back from his hamstring. Devin Bush is gone. That was a bad miss. And former Eagle, not great, Miles Jack.
Oh gosh, I remember that. Yeah, this team, and you're right. You have this written down. TJ Watt did not play in that game a couple years
He did not. No, he was on IR.
This is so different. I mean, just having
listen.
TJ Watt and Jerry Porter Jr. now, and Keanu Benton, who's having a Wisconsin kid, having a great year on that. This is a total, and Minka is healthy. This is just a completely different offensive line and defense for the Steelers.
Just let me finish this out. We'll do the Eagles in a minute, but this is funny. Cam Sutton was a starting outside corner for them. Then he went to Detroit, signed a big deal. Then he had the off the field issue, and he's back now. He's actually beating Bishop's their nickel, but now they're starting to cut into his time. He's an undrafted free agent.
Hmm.
Sutton is cutting into his time, but Sutton was an outside corner for them. And then here's the name. A lot of Eagles fans thought he was going to be a stud. No, they would not be right. Terrell Edmonds.
I forgot he was back with them. Yeah.
Yep.
Special
He was still
team,
there.
right? Special
He was
team.
still there.
Yeah.
Minka, as you mentioned, Arthur Mollett, he's a journeyman who's been with Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and other teams. So is that we went over this? Very few players are left from 2 years ago. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I would say that's a better thing for the Steelers than the Eagles, because obviously the Eagles kicked the crap out of the Steelers that game, and that just didn't look like your typical Steelers team. Not taking any credit away. My biggest recollection is the Eagles were in the midst of a little streak there of 3 or 4 games after the bye where they were on a torrid come out and just scorch you early. Like Jalen Hurts was throwing bombs down the sidelines to Devontae Smith and to AJ Brown. I think it was the Titans, the Steelers, and the Giants back to back to back that Hurts just came out and lit all of them up. I mean, he was throwing the ball all over the place on these teams.
He killed the Titans. That thing was an annihilation. That Giants game, the Packers game, I vaguely remember. Do you remember that 40-33 game?
Against the Packers? Yes, I remember it because Christian Watson gave them that was his rookie year, and he wasn't doing really well. He had missed the first part of the hamstring.
I remember this game.
And Jordan Love had to play, right?
Here's what happened, right? Remember the second half, Love looked great at that game?
Yes.
Rodgers got hurt. Hurts ran all over him. So did holy Stromboli. Listen to this.
Holy Stromboli.
Hurts and Sanders combined for 300 rushing yards on 38 carries.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders, man, that's amazing.
That's how long ago it was. And then for the Eagles, okay?
All right. Yeah, wait, hold on. Hold that thought, because we're going to pause real quick to hear a word from our friends from Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you hop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You'll get a great deal. Take advantage of all the great inventory, the great customer service, the complete car buying experience or car selling experience, as you can get it all done at Sky Motor Cars. Okay, so the Eagles?
Yeah. Go to SkyMotorCars.com, yes. So this is now the Eagles only have 10 players back from just 2 years ago. Now, Quez Watkins, of course. Okay, here's who started. Watkins, who would then move on to Pittsburgh. Mailata, of course. Dickerson. Kelsey's now retired. Isaac is on the other side. Isaac Seumalo. Lane Johnson, of course. Goddard's on IR, so he's not playing. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. A.J. he killed them. 6 for 156. Did he get a taunting penalty in that game? My memory serves me.
That one I can't remember. I think he did. I think after a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yes. Did he do the shotgun thing? I forget what it was.
I don't remember, but he was unbelievable. And you know who scored on a 30? Oh, I don't remember this one. Do you remember Zach Pascal scoring a 34-yard catch?
No.
Exactly.
I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know how
I
you remember that.
usually have some strange total recall from games, from Eagles games. Don't remember that one at all.
So, of course, Hurts and Sanders, who's now Sanders now with Carolina. Sweaty, Hargrave gone, Niners. Jordan Davis started that game. Fletcher's retired. Fletcher Cox retired. Reddick with the Jets. T.J. Edwards with the Bears. Avante doesn't. He's a dime corner if they ever play dime, and a backup safety. James Bradbury on IR. Slayback. Marcus Epps, unfortunately, towards ACL with the Raiders, and Gardner Johnson, after 1 year sabbatical with the Lions, is back. So they only had 10 players who are going to be in this game out of the 22. So yeah, but it's amazing. In 22, out of 44 starters, you're looking at like maybe 15 that are going to be starting in this game combined for both.
Life comes at you fast in the NFL, man. Things change in a heartbeat.
One more for you.
Go ahead.
One more. So if you look at the guys, this one floored me. I thought this. I mean, I guess he didn't retire. If you look at who are on the Steelers 53-man roster IR practice squad,
Mm-hmm.
Max Sharping's on their 53, former Eagle, not great.
That's where he wound up. Okay.
Yep, Cam Johnson, as we and Nate Herbig both out for the season, and this guy won't quit.
Dude,
Jim Schwartz
before
didn't
you
want
say
him.
it, my eyes fell out of my head when I saw this that you wrote on the. I said, "What? He's still in the league?"
I know. I
was
totally
shocked.
forgot. And the Eagles, they never should have listened to Jim Schwartz on this one because he went up moving from corner to safety with the Patriots. Eric Rowe, he won't give it up. Good for him. He's still getting a paycheck, a practice squad paycheck.
Yeah. Wow. Eric Rowe.
Yep.
Perfect kind of Steeler, man. Big physical guy. Obviously, it didn't cut, like you said, it cut way too early. Has played both safety and nickel. He was with Miami. Was he with Dallas too at one point?
I don't think so, but for Miami, he signed a big free agent contract.
Right, Miami. It was with Miami.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the corner, Byron Jones that went from Dallas to
Oh
Miami.
yeah.
That the Eagles at one point wanted. But yeah, no, Eric Rowe made a decent career for himself, especially when he went down there to Miami. And I'm sure people, well, we have a lot of new listeners. So one of my favorite Howie irrational excuses
good.
after he traded away Eric Rowe was after his first year was that, well, they like to take a look a couple years down the road and see if they're going to offer a guy a contract extension or not. And they just didn't feel like Rowe was going to be someone by year 3 who earned an extension. So they traded him after year 1.
That was one of the spur of the moment. I got to say something.
Wait, hold on. These are the same executive, and Howie's not the only one. How many guys tell you that a draft pick is a 3-year work? You don't judge him after 1 year. You got to give him the full time. It was the opposite of everything Howie has ever said. I think I don't know. He just probably was like, I got to figure out something to say.
It's exactly it. He had to say something. Eric Rowe won the Super Bowl twice with the Patriots.
That's
so
right.
Eagles 2015. Eagles. Wait. So wait a minute. Did they actually?
They kept Goblin over him. By the way, that was Schwartz's guy, Jalen Mills.
No, so they did. Okay, they did trade him for a conditional 4th-round pick. Okay, I'm looking at the transaction. The year later, right before the season started, I think, or somewhere around there. But the fact that they and he's now 32 years old, turns 33 in October. But I give the guy credit. I mean, he moved to safety pretty early in his career and won Super Bowl twice. And I went to Carolina last year, and now he's his second year with on and off the Steelers practice squad. So good for him, man. He's had quite the career.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, Eric Rowe, that's so funny. I wonder if he'll get elevated just to stick it to his old team. No, I'm just kidding. All right. That is basically the wrap up here. And of course, we're going to have the game covered from a real X's and O's angle, even more so on Sunday morning with the Inside the Birds pregame show, myself, Adam Caplan, and Greg Cosell, as we continue this train of a season, this steam engine train of a season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is a big game. I'm excited about the game because I like big games, and this is a big game.
It is a lot on the line for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
Steelers are trying to hang in there, technically for the number 1 seed. It'll be hard, but they have to play the Chiefs coming up, by the way.
Yeah, they got a shot. I mean, they win that game. They bridged the 2 games behind the Chiefs, one behind. No, now they're tied with Buffalo, right? Because Buffalo lost last week. So
both. Yep. And also, obviously, they want to win the division.
Of course, yeah.
No one thought they could do. And Mike Tomlin does it, man. Hasn't won a playoff game since 2017, but they've never had a losing record.
There you go. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation.